Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Hope everyone had a very happy, healthy, and safe Thanksgiving weekend. Wild weekend in sports. In the NFL, in college football, the Predators are absolutely red hot. Took down the Flames last Wednesday 4-2. Scored 8 in St. Louis, and then, of course, beat the Winnipeg Jets 3-2 last night. We'll also hear from Mike Vrabel in 1 hour. He'll speak with the media at noon after the Titans broke that 3-game losing streak. Continue along their home game winning streak, beating the crummy, crappy Carolina Panthers 17-10 in Nissan Stadium yesterday. But Willy D-Mase, happy Monday. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. How we doing?
Doing well. Titans got a victory. Preds got a victory. Vols got a victory. So are we?
Vanderbilt had a really fun night in Knoxville.
Vandy.
There were some cool uniforms.
Yeah, Vandy wore cool uniforms.
Yeah.
Vandy, yeah. Vandy basketball.
Yeah.
They played, didn't they?
They didn't do well.
Oh, gosh.
They went to Vegas.
Gosh, man.
It's almost baseball season.
Yeah, it's almost
Came
baseball
up
season,
empty.
Willie.
Came up empty. Injuries.
Yeah, okay.
Coach Stack will have him. He has not had a game yet where he's had Ezra
Fully
Mignone
healthy.
and Tyron Lawrence in the same game.
Okay.
They finally got Tyron Lawrence back, and Ezra Mignone missed both games in Vegas. So we still don't know exactly what it's going to look like when they have everybody. Also, they have a transfer from Notre Dame who played in Vegas, and I think he's going to help them. So they've got to figure out. It seems to be like a big jigsaw puzzle. All the pieces are scattered along the table, and you're like, okay, how do I get all this together? So that's where they're at. But it was not a good trip to Vegas for them.
Well, are many trips to Vegas very good?
Well, that's a fair question.
Depends on how you spend it.
Yeah, exactly. They're just holding the money for the weekend. As
they're
Jason likes to say.
hold
if
the
it's
money.
in your budget. It's entertainment.
Yeah.
You may
money,
just
I
go
guess.
for the
Yeah.
food. I mean, there's some good food out there.
Yeah, some shows.
There you
That's
go.
what everyone goes to
skier,
Vegas
you know.
for. The food. the cuisine.
It might just be me. I don't know.
We've got a lot to catch up on after the Thanksgiving weekend. Like I mentioned, Titans get the win against the Carolina Panthers 17-10. We'll get into all of that. Reactions, takeaways, how many takeaways we can really take from that game. One of my takeaways being, oh my gosh, Bryce Young is small.
Yeah.
I knew he was small.
Or his offensive line is just huge.
And not very good.
Not very good either.
We'll get into our reactions from the Titans game on Sunday, some of our takeaways from that game. But I want to start here with 2 reports that came out since the last time we were on the air on Wednesday. The first one that came out from Diana Rossini on The Athletic. Diana Rossini wrote, frustrated New England Patriots fans can stop hoping owner Robert Kraft will trade with Tennessee and replace head coach Bill Belichick with his former player Mike Vrabel. It's not happening. Angry Tennessee Titans fans can stop hoping owner Amy Adams Strunk fires Vrabel. It's not happening. Based on multiple conversations with high-ranking Titans officials, the franchise strongly and collectively believes it has the right coach for long-term success. And she goes on to talk about, Vrabel's resume so far in Tennessee, where the fan base is at, but essentially the meat and potatoes of it all is, per the Titans ownership, per her sources within the Titans organization, they're not moving off of Mike Vrabel. Now, I got a lot of questions about that. One thing that I think is important is thinking about sourcing, because a lot of times when we talk about Diana Rossini and her reports from the Titans, we always say it's probably coming from Mike Vrabel. But this here, an article in The Athletic, owned by the New York Times, one of the most reputable news sources in the world, is not going to let Diana Rossini run with a report about Mike Vrabel's job security if the only source is Mike Vrabel himself. So I believe that Diana Rossini did have important conversations with important officials within the Titans about the future of Mike Vrabel in this franchise. And then we turn to the next report that then came out. And this is from Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal, who has been covering the New England Patriots in the NFL for a long time. Says many believe that Mike Vrabel was put in the position of being a strong head coach and wanted the hiring of Ran Carthon as general manager. That is incorrect. That was a shotgun marriage by ownership. NFL sources believe the league had a heavy hand in owner Amy Adams Strunk hiring Carthon, a top minority candidate. Vrabel and Carthon had no previous relationship, and it's believed they don't have much of one now. There have been issues with Carthon's job performance even back to his 49ers days. League sources believe that Vrabel could be looking for a way to force his way out of Tennessee after this season, and the Patriots would be an obvious landing spot, if not the frontrunner. Could the Crafts trade Belichick to the Commanders, Chargers, or Panthers, and then secure Vrabel? It's not out of the realm of possibility.
That's a
lot
of fun. It's a lot of fun to speculate. It's a lot of fun. Well,
why is this only coming out of Boston, though?
It is interesting that
like
way,
everything that has come out
because it's a sexy
it's come
story.
out of Boston and not, someone just reporting it nationally, or even Diana Rossini, coming out with this because we believe that Diana is sort of the mouthpiece for Vrabel. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's not, but that's what many believe. So stories like this, they keep trickling out. It's like, why is it only coming out from the Boston side and nowhere else? That, to me, that's just wait and see for me.
Now, this guy is a veteran reporter that goes back a long way. He's in the NFL Writers Association. I mean, this is a John McClane type of guy, right? This is a guy that is not not to put a label on anybody in the media, but he's not out there trying to create a lot of stir.
Gossip columnist.
But he's trying to dig for information. It's a part of a longer article, right? That clip, that paragraph you read is part of a long article that starts by saying that all of his sources are saying that the successor to Bill Belichick will be Gerard Mayo. He said that's what's going to happen. Now, but then he goes on and says, but is that what should happen? And then he goes into all this stuff about Vrabel. So to me, the New England stuff, that's all a wait and see. That is, and of course they sunk, if it's possible, even lower. No. They lost 10-7 to the Giants.
Oof.
They benched Mac Jones again. So they have just hit a wall. I mean, it is really, really a crisis. And he wrote that article before they lost that game to the Giants. So now, who knows what it's like up in New England these days. But
deeper than rock bottom.
But everybody to a man, he cited several executives. He said, I think he used the word universal in there, that they believe that Mayo will be the successor. It still is a huge reach for me to think that the Patriots, who are going into a full rebuild, now they clearly don't have the quarterback. They've got to go find that, as well as all the other holes they've got to fill. And you're going to trade assets to get Mike Vrabel? It doesn't make sense. But I think it clearly shows you how much people love Vrabel up there. But I think the real piece of news that affects what's going on here is the insight that he projected of the relationship between Carthon and Vrabel. Because to me, when a team struggles, it's going to create a natural strain, especially for two guys that are working together for the first time. And so I think it will be very interesting today at the press conference how Mike Vrabel reacts to this, because I think he'll get asked about it today.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. And like Vrabel, he will sort of, go around the question and make it about what his team did yesterday.
But don't you think he needs to put a stop to this?
I don't think
he needs to characterize, especially for the sake of Ran Carthon. This guy is a first-year GM, and they make Ran Carthon out to be some guy that was lucky to get a job for all these reasons and doesn't know what he's doing.
But I don't understand.
That's not fair to him.
No,
Mike Vrabel has a chance to kind of stand up for himself.
No, it's not fair to him, and I don't understand why that narrative continues to sort of be labeled with Ran Carthon. I think I just have some as you continue to look at it, I just have some problems. One, to insinuate that, that Amy was forced essentially to hire Rand Carthon. I mean, I don't think that is true. I hope it's not true. I would think an owner, independently hires, whoever she wants or he or she wants as GM, regardless of what the league may think or what I may think. We've seen it for many, many years. There should have been more minority hires at GM, but it hasn't been. So I'm not just going to believe now all of a sudden the league said, Amy, you need to hire Rand Carthon. You better hire him. So she begrudgingly hired him. I mean, his resume speaks for itself. I'm sure they think highly of him in San Fran. There was nothing in this whole process that ever came out bad about Rand Carthon. See, this is the stuff like
now all of a sudden
like
you have
all of a
this
sudden
unnamed
the
source
team's
saying
losing,
he's had problems before,
and now he has problems, and they didn't think think highly of him in San Fran. It's like, wouldn't all of this stuff had come out prior to him being named the GM? It's just fishy now that okay, the Titans are losing, New England's losing, people want Belichick out. Then all of a sudden, Vrabel comes in because he goes there and get his jersey retired, and he says a few words. Now it stirs up everything, and it seems like with every second or third loss, an article comes out about Vrabel, and then they attach Rand Carthon to it. Again, this is only coming out in Boston.
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen anybody else report like this stuff. A dissension between the GM and the coach. I haven't heard about this other than what's been coming out of Boston.
Well, when it references Rand Carthon and essentially that the league had a heavy hand in Amy Adams Strunk hiring Rand Carthon. First of all, I hate that it always comes back to that. He's a minority candidate, so they must have been just forced into that decision. He's very well respected across the league. And whenever Rand Carthon was hired, I remember we had Jeff Fisher on the show because Jeff Fisher worked with Rand Carthon earlier in Rand's career with the St. Louis and Los Angeles Rams. Jeff Fisher spoke glowingly about Rand Carthon. So I can't say that was the case or it wasn't, but the fact that Rand Carthon got a general manager position in the NFL was not out of nowhere. That was not out of left field. He was a very well-respected figure among the league. So let's get that out of the way. Issues with Rand Carthon's job performance even back to his 49ers days. I never heard of that.
That's out of left field.
That is complete. I have never heard
and there's no
that.
detail or context provided to that, so I don't get that. That's a pot shot.
That is, I don't. If there's no examples and if there are no specific,
we're talking about the 49ers, one of the most successful teams going in the league right now.
So I don't know where that came from, who that came from, or how much validity there is to that. But on Vrabel and Rand Carthon's relationship. I think that's interesting because we don't know what the conversations look like behind closed doors. Do I think that Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon are bestie pops that call each other on the daily just to chat about each other's days? No, I don't. But that is an interesting point because I have wondered what that relationship is like. Remember when we saw the differing reports? Ian Rappaport came out and said, well, a trade with Derrick Henry could be on the table. Then Diana Rossini comes out and reports, no way that Derrick Henry is going to be traded. That seemed like a little bit of butting heads. That seemed to me like maybe there was a little bit of utilizing reporters and sources to kind of go behind each other's backs a little bit. And that's just my interpretation of the situation, my opinion of what we've seen over the last couple of weeks and months to maybe insinuate that there is some friction there. So I don't know what that's like behind closed doors, but I do think that it's interesting. This coming out from Greg Bedard, somebody who is incredibly plugged into the National Football League, somebody that has, he wants sources, he's probably got sources about the relationship between Vrabel and Rand Carthon. And if they don't have a very good relationship and they're supposed to be collaborating with this franchise, you're heading down a really slippery slope.
Okay, so he ends the paragraph by saying, quote, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Okay, so you can take that. Like, it's not out of...
Kraft's trading Bill Belichick.
Right.
Yeah.
Not out of the realm of possibility of the Patriots, in theory, trading Belichick and then acquiring Vrabel somehow, right? That's basically what he's saying. Not out of the realm of possibility. Now, it's not out of the realm of possibility that all of you that go buy lottery tickets today could win.
Yep.
You could win. Is it probable? No. Right? That's why it's you win big when you win, right? That's so we're not going to get into that, but it gives you liberty to kind of paint this, right? And so
word choice is very careful and intentional in this article.
And so Bedard will probably around going to sources, and the premise of this is all in theory. I don't know how he puts together his stories, but in theory it could be, hey, is there any way that Vrabel could end up with the Patriots? Well, yeah, I guess if it happens, well, Rand Carthon, he didn't hire Rand Carthon. I mean, I think the league pushed Rand Carthon. And then you go down this road and you come up with a way that Vrabel could end up with the Patriots. Again, like you said, Derek, it's coming out of New England. These are sources. I don't – you're coming up with a way that plausibly Vrabel could become eligible to get into the mix here. But you've got to come up with all these different things.
There's a lot of moving parts.
And I don't know how well the thing, that's why I think Vrabel, it's important to define the relationship. We haven't heard much from Rand Carthon in the last few weeks when, as the train has kind of gone off the tracks here.
When was the last time we heard from
I don't remember, honestly. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. Training camp.
Training camp.
Did we hear much from John Robinson? Only on certain issues we heard from John Robinson.
Like when you trade A.J. Brown.
Yeah,
you hear from John Robinson. When you trade Kevin Byard, I would have liked to have heard from Rand Carthon.
The Kevin Byard is different. You're looking at it from a guy that everybody loves. I'm looking at it from a performance standpoint. His play started to slide. This defense wasn't, even with him on the field, this defense wasn't, from the secondary standpoint, they were not playing the way that they needed to play. So when you make a move like that in the middle of the season, you're making a move, one, because you know that this guy will not be signed back next year.
He's a team captain, though.
See, y'all looking at all this. Y'all looking at all the exterior things. Look at on the field, the play on. I don't give a damn whether he was a captain. I don't care whether he was loved, even though he was, and he was. All of that is true. But when it comes down to it, your performance on the field, that's what means everything. His performance wasn't what they deemed good enough with a guy that they know they're not going to sign back. So what do we do as a organization? We say, well, let's try to get something for him. Let's send him somewhere where he can possibly win, do him a favor, and then allow him to move on. Let's trade him. To me, that's something that if the head coach, you either the head coach addresses it or you address it at the end of the season. That's not, had you traded him or cut him at the beginning of the season, then okay, everybody involved has to go out and get in front of the media. When you do it at the juncture they did it, a team that is not going anywhere, you say, hey, listen, this is the move that we're going to make, and we're making it because we don't anticipate signing him at the end of the season to an extension. We want to move on from him, but we want to do him a favor also. Send him to a team that's winning. I don't need to, as a GM, I don't need to discuss. That's the head coach's job. It's not like now, Derrick Henry, who's still playing really, really well, you trade him off, everybody needs to talk. Everybody. Even the equipment guy needs to talk. But when you trade a guy like Byard, he's been great for this organization. I understand that. But that secondary and his play started to decline. So when I trade him away, it's like, okay, the head coach is going to speak on it. If the head coach chooses not to speak on it, then okay. It's not for the GM to speak, because for the last 3 or 4 months, probably even longer than that, since he's got hired, everybody says, well, Vrabel has to say. So if Vrabel has to say, why do you want Rand to talk? Vrabel talked.
He's still the general manager.
But I'm saying, if we are to say, and I'm not saying it's
true.
I
understand your point. I get your point. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying from maybe a fan perspective, because I see your point as a player of, look, if you can't give this team what we need you, then we're going to move on and get assets for you. I'm saying from a fan perspective, and that's ultimately who Rand Carthon would be speaking to, is the fans.
Right. Vrabel spoke to him.
Right, but let's take Floyd Reese did a weekly 1-hour radio show on the station I was on. That was the flagship every week.
But GMs don't do that no more.
John Robinson was, I feel like, in some sort of rotation coming on the shows. I find Rand Carthon to be a real personable, fun guy to talk to. I think it would be something that would be good for him to get out there and just be in the flow of conversation, even through the tough times. It's tough he's a rookie GM. He's young. But it leaves this space of, well, okay, what is the relationship like? What's going on behind the curtain there? I checked around. I mean, it's not like they don't ever talk. I would imagine they've had some relationship. Absolutely.
They've spoke on it before. So my thing is, why do they, every time a story comes out, and I'm just looking at it from the other side, because they have spoken on the relationship this year. And it's a good working relationship. I don't know what it is outside the building, but it's a good working relationship. So if I've already told you that, why then do I have to address it every time a story comes out from someone that is not affiliated with the Nashville media or the market, someone that doesn't closely follow the team? Why do I have to address it every time somebody from Boston puts out an article? You can't operate it like that as a franchise. You just can't. I'm just looking at it from both sides. I understand what y'all are saying. Well, he need to address this. He need to address that. Well, the head coach addressed it, the Kevin Byard thing. He addressed it. I don't think the GM needs to address every time an article comes out about a potential, a potential like them two not getting along. Somebody's upset because they don't have all the power, or you have too much power.
I think the root of it comes from the fact that this team isn't good.
And
this team isn't winning
you're
football
right.
games.
That's what, because if they're winning, they could have a horrible relationship, but if they're winning, everything is fine.
And if you're winning, it's easy to dismiss. I don't want to call this Greg Bedard report rumors, because I don't think that it is, because I think that it's somebody that's very well respected with a lot of insight and sources. But when things come up like this, speculation comes up like this, it's easy to dismiss it when the team is being very successful. When they're losing, that brings up questions about fractures in relationships, about how competent the front office is with this team and building the team for the future. But I want to continue the conversation coming up next. I also want to look into Diana Rossini's report. And if it reminds you too of a certain situation here with the Tennessee Titans a few years ago. We'll get into that coming up next. Again, Mike Vrabel will speak with the media in just over 30 minutes at the top of the hour. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase is brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Hey, let's tell you once again about Loan Pronto. Okay, we're past Thanksgiving. That means we're counting down to the holiday season. And if you need cash for the holidays, or you're looking ahead to 2024 and you want to be credit card debt-free, call Loan Pronto right now, because they have a great action plan to get you there. It's called the Express Equity Line of Credit. If you're a homeowner, you have tons of equity in your home, very likely, and Loan Pronto can access that equity, turn it into cash, and you can get that in as little as 5 days. You can access up to 95% of your home's value if that's what you need. But whatever level it is, you can take that money and pay off the credit card bill that may have a higher interest rate. Get that down to zero. And you can keep your primary mortgage intact. So that 3% rate or whatever it is protected. So call Loan Pronto and get that holiday cash you need. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780. Or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
That was Mike Vrabel last week on his job security. And really, a majority of our conversation over the last week was how secure is Mike Vrabel's job? I was passing by Deja Vu the other day. They had a Fire Mike Vrabel sign on the outside of the building.
Wow.
En route to Bridgestone Arena. I was passing by Deja Vu. Let me clarify that. In an Uber, on my way to Bridgestone Arena.
Yeah, you got to clarify that.
Is that a hotel, Deja Vu?
It's a local establishment.
Local establishment.
Yeah,
Local
I'm
establishment.
very grateful for.
She was just passing by. Passing by.
I sent Jared a photo of it, and he very conveniently tweeted out not the photo that I sent, but the photo along with my name. So I then had to clarify.
That's why you can't send Jared anything, okay?
I've learned my lesson, especially whenever you are in an Uber passing by Deja Vu on your way to Bridgestone Arena. Glad we could clarify that. So even the local strip joints want Mike Vrabel gone. So they may have read Diana Rossini's report over the weekend, much to their dismay. Diana Rossini's report that said Mike Vrabel is going nowhere, that Amy Adams-Strunk is not going to fire Mike Vrabel, that they strongly believe, this is from Diana Rossini's report, that the franchise strongly and collectively believes that it has the right coach for long-term success. Do we believe that? Like, do we believe that they mean that?
Well, let's tie it into one of the sentences in that article that we read by Bedard, which is, again, really interesting. Again, gets the juices flowing. What do you like to call it, Caroline? The tea.
The tea.
It gives you a little tea, a little shot. Yeah. But he basically said Vrabel's looking for an out, right? He's looking for a way out. It's kind of he uses those words somewhere in there.
Yes. So he writes that league sources believe that Vrabel could be looking for a way to force his way out of Tennessee after this season.
Could be. Could be. So that's where I go back to what I've been saying all along. Does Mike Vrabel want to go through the rebuild? This team's in a rebuild, and it's going to change even more next year.
But hell, if he goes to New England and they're in a rebuild.
Well, New England stinks.
But there's something different about going in as the new guy to fix a problem that you inherit, as opposed to going through a rebuild and then coming out for a second run of success. Not to say that people haven't done it. You know what I'm saying, right? There's a little different when you're the new guy and, hey, here comes Mike Vrabel. He's got all these Super Bowl rings. Here he comes. As opposed to
your golden child, Mike Vrabel.
Right. Because right now he's getting criticized like he's never been criticized before because things are going south. And they were inevitably – most teams go through this cycle, right? So does he want to go through it? Amy Adams might want him to, but that's where I think you've got to really read. You got to talk, communicate, and say, look, if you're on board with this, I want you to be the guy that leads us out of this thing. But does he want that?
I mean, does any coach in the NFL wants to go through a rebuild? No, because
he said it himself, right?
More than likely, you will not come out of that rebuild as the head coach of said team. So no coach, I don't care if you're in college, no coach wants to go through what they call a rebuild. College, they may give you a little bit more time, but in the NFL, definitely no one wants to go through a rebuild. So when the article says that maybe he doesn't want to go, well, you're basically speaking on all coaches, all 32 NFL coaches that potentially could go through a rebuild. Nobody wants to go through it, especially if they don't have that guy underneath center that is proven. When you have a proven guy, it may be a rebuild, but at least the quarterback gives us an opportunity to win as we building this team back together.
And he would at least have that hope in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi
they're going to
leave
get
you a whole lot of room for optimism.
They're going to get a top 3 pick, so they're going to get their quarterback of the future.
Caleb Williams, come on down.
Yeah. So, but again, does Vrabel want to go through a rebuild? No. But is he going to just walk away from his job? No, I don't believe that either. Vrabel doesn't seem like the guy that when things starts to get tough on a football field, he walks away from that responsibility. He doesn't come off as that type of coach. I'm not saying he's not or he is, but he just doesn't come off as that type of coach. Well, I'm going to look for a way out because I don't want to go through a rebuild. Well, hell, you're a part of the reason they got to go through a rebuild. You know, they have to do the things necessary. So when they walk into that stadium, which I've been saying for the last 2 years, they want to have a team that competes for the Super Bowl when they walk up in that new Nissan Stadium. They want to have a team that can compete right away. So do I believe he wants out? No, I don't believe he wants out. Do I believe he wants things better? Absolutely.
Of course.
He wants things better.
Nobody
but I don't
wants
think
their
he's
job
going
to be more
to
difficult than it is.
I don't think he's trying to run away from the Titans to go to New England, where it's going to be a real rebuild for them.
I just wonder, from Titans ownership, Titans front office perspective, Diana Rossini's sources for this article that she put out, what is the benefit of coming out and saying, New England, we're not trading with you. It's not happening. We're not going to fire Mike Vrabel. It's not happening. We believe that Mike Vrabel is our coach for long-term success. What is the benefit of putting that out there right now, other than trying to up the price for Mike Vrabel?
Nope, it's distraction. We don't want it has nothing to do with trying to up the price of Vrabel, because listen, they're going to, if indeed that was to happen, or they start to facilitate it somehow, some way, there's going to be only so much they're going to be willing to give up. I mean, New England.
Right. And I think that everybody would have a price. Like
Exactly.
If the Patriots say, we'll give you 5 first-round picks,
then
I
you
hope
gotta-
Amy Adams Strunk would say yes to that
Take
deal.
him out, pack his bags and his house up, and you can have him.
Right.
But it's all about distraction. This team isn't doing well anyway. Why do you want more distractions on top of what is going on in the season?
But do you believe the sentiment then? If it's to eliminate distraction, which I think totally makes sense. Look, there's a lot of talk out here. We want to eliminate the talk in the locker room. Is she telling the truth? Or is it just trying to eliminate distraction? Because they said the same thing about Mike Mularkey. A week before they fired Mike Mularkey.
I understand that. But Mularkey is different from Vrabel, even though they did, to me, that was just dirty how that whole thing sort of went about. But I'm sure there's even more, in that story that we don't even know that may, benefit management or may benefit, coach that got fired, Mularkey. But I think this is different. You have a coach that the, GM came in. I don't know if he wanted him or not, but GM comes in, and this team was doing horrible, and he ended up taking over. Mm-hmm. They started to do a little better. He leads them to the playoffs. From what we gather, there were some changes that needed to be made, and he would not make them. So today, I love you. You're my dude. You're my girl. We're doing this. But then tomorrow, if I ask you to do something that's critical to our, relationship or organization, and you choose not to do it after we've already talked about this other stuff, then okay, we just see things different. I got to move on. You fire him. This situation is nothing like the Mularkey situation. It's not. So, to me, when they say, we love Vrabel, I believe them. They love him today. When they put out that article, they loved him. That's when they love him. But you continue to lose, or you do some things outside of what they want you to do, they don't love you anymore, and they will move on. So the article can be true, and it can be false in a sense. You ask me a question right now. I love pineapples. Yep, absolutely. But if I get a bad pineapple tomorrow or 2 or 3 of them, I'm changing I don't like them anymore. I've had too many bad pineapples. Yeah. So today, I'm telling the truth. But it can change. As Stephen A. say, things are fluid. Okay? That's what it is.
With the team's 4-7, it's incredibly fluid.
Right.
A lot of fluidity.
And remember, they've still got to play Jacksonville again. They've got to play Houston twice. Mm-hmm. They've got to play in Miami. The toughest days of the season, the dog days, are still ahead, right? There's going to be a lot of challenges. And yesterday, even though they won, I think they beat the only team they could have beaten. yesterday. That was hardly a game where you're saying, wow, they really took a big step forward. That was not the case.
We have some breaking news here.
Is this
per Gentry Estes?
Yes.
MTSU has parted ways with Rick Stockstill. They fired him after 18 seasons, ending one of the longest coaching tenures in FBS history. So Rick is out as MTSU's head football coach, and
That's a shame.
let the coaching carousel begin.
Jimbo Fisher to MTSU. I'm kidding.
Jeff Fisher.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, he would be the highest paid coach in the land because that's the other thing about his contract. It was not offset at all. So
By
he
another
still
job.
gets paid by Texas A&M, even if he gets paid
Another job.
He could work for free for his next job.
If they paid him $10 an hour, he would still be the highest paid coach
Right.
in all of
Right.
college
That's
football.
the beauty of the next team that hires him. But we'll see. But let's just say this. We've really enjoyed dealing with Rick Stockstill.
He's a great guy.
It reminds me a little bit when Barry Trotz and Jeff Fisher, they finally, everything's got to
Parted
come to an
ways,
end.
yeah.
But it was a long, long run. And there were a lot of good times there for Middle Tennessee. So Coach Stock is I don't know him that well, but I've always had great dealings with him. Classy guy, I think, put a good stamp on that program for a long period of time. We'll see what the next chapter
See what the next chapter is for the Blue Raiders, which I wish Coach Stock nothing but the best. But we'll continue the conversation about Mike Vrabel, Diana Rossini's report, Greg Bedard's report coming out of New England, about maybe some potential friction between the relationship of Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel. We will hear from Mike Vrabel at the top of the hour at noon. We'll carry that live in its entirety. Do we expect to hear from Mike Vrabel about that? What do we expect to hear from Mike Vrabel when he speaks with the media at noon? We'll get into that, and of course, your phones as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063, The Game. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game, and The Game Nashville app. We will hear from Mike Vrabel in 15 minutes. We will carry that live and in its entirety right at the top of the hour here on 1025 and 1063, The Game. We're breaking down the reports from over the weekend. Diana Rossini reports that Titans ownership and the Titans front office believes that they have the coach in place for long-term success, and Mike Vrabel's not going anywhere. But Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal, longtime NFL reporter, longtime New England Patriots reporter, reports that he has heard that league sources say that Vrabel could be looking for a way to force his way out of Tennessee, that the relationship between Ran Carthon and Mike Vrabel is severed. So let's get your thoughts on that. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam is on the line with a thought on Ran Carthon. What's up, Adam?
Hey, Caroline. So here's my thing. The whole thing, and I disagree with Jared so hard on this, I feel like Ran Carthon's done so many good things already. He is – I don't see where he slipped. I mean, unless you call, him talking to the media. Who cares if he talks to the media? I don't care if he talks to the media. Do you care if he talks to the media? His job is player and coach acquisition, and so far he's gotten Skoronski, who's the highest-graded lineman, and Levis, who I think we all agree is a pretty good quarterback so far and probably the one. And then in the third round, we got Tajay. I don't really care after when he gets in the fourth and fifth and all that, but I think those are all three pretty good hits. And then you got D-Hop to come here. When J-Rob got, old receivers that sucked, we got D-Hop that looks like D-Hop. So I think Ran Carthon's done a fine job. I'm not gonna bag on that guy at all. His etiquette with how he releases information, I could care less about that. I just want good players. So I'm and I don't think necessarily, the last thing is that I don't think Vrabel's necessarily his guy. If he's completely changing how your offense looks, then he's probably going to change and get his coach that fits that as well at some point. That's just my thought.
Thank you for your call, Adam. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam.
One thing that I do put as in the negative column for Ran Carthon is the offensive line. You took an offensive lineman in the first round, but that was all you did to address an offensive line that needed some TLC. You bring in Andre Dillard, that you sign Aaron Brewer to a $4 million deal when neither of those two are starters in the NFL at their positions.
No, they're not. And, they're going to have to make some changes next season to those positions. But on a good note, looked really good yesterday. The rookie left tackle, Jalen Duncan. I was about to say Daly, but I'm like, nope, that's not it.
Not
hell
Daly.
No. Duncan looked really good yesterday. He had his moments. He was about 2 or 3 situations within a game where he could have been better, but I think I ended up watching the game again this morning just so I can watch him. He did, and granted, listen, the Carolina Panthers front 7 or front 4 they're not Cleveland's, they're not world beaters, they're not the Baltimore Ravens or New Orleans Saints. I get that, but that young kid held his own. He did some good things. He and Peter worked well together this game. I want to see if it continues moving forward. But Duncan, he didn't look bad. Go back and watch the tape and watch him. The kid didn't look bad. Now, again, I preference it with that's not a great defensive line, but he came in, he held his own, he did good on combination blocks. It seemed like those two were he and Skoronski were communicating. So hopefully we can build on that. He can build on that like Will Levis built on his first start. It hasn't been great, but we see promise in Will Levis. I just want to see promise in Duncan as well. He's going to have to face some stiffer competition moving forward. But his first test this past weekend, he passed. I would have given him a C+, a flat B, somewhere around there, but he did a good job.
So I think the point is we started with the call on Carthon, and this article kind of questions whether this guy is competent as a GM. I think all you can judge so far is what he's done since he's been there. The free agents really have been a hodgepodge and a couple of big misses that have hurt them, but the draft so far is promising. Yeah. The one draft, they've got this has a chance to be a solid draft, whereas they had 2 empty drafts, right? That really put them behind the 8 ball.
Well, Wiley's doing pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
Tajay Spears is doing okay. Peter's doing okay.
Will Levis is now
Will
your
Levis
starting quarterback.
is now your so you have 4 guys out of the 7 that you drafted.
And Dowell is now emerged as a guy, special teams guy. Which
so
is
you're getting
better than nothing.
You're getting contribution from these guys that you drafted. And like Willie said, well, if you just want to base it on his draft this year, then as we sit now, they're doing okay. They can get better. You want them to get better. The free agents, Dillard was a dud. Who else? Arden Key's been up and down.
Had a good day yesterday.
Yeah, he had a good day yesterday. But
Alshire.
It's also
Alshire
the Carolina
has
Panthers.
been doing
Brunskill.
really well. He's in the top 10 in tackles in the NFL. He's your leading tackler on the team. So
He's had his
Bunting.
flubs.
Bunting is doing okay. Chris Moore, if they give him more opportunities, he continues to show that he can be a playmaker for your offense.
And these are budget free agents.
Exactly.
Remember, these aren't big dollar free agents. This was what the task was: is give me this batch of players to fill holes with a limited budget. Shopping at what do we like to say?
I don't know.
At the dollar store.
Yeah, dollar store. Well, ain't nothing wrong with the dollar store.
Nothing
though.
wrong with the dollar
I
store,
don't
but
know if
everything's
it's the dollar
dollar.
store. Like I think it's maybe one level above the dollar store, but certainly not at
I guess
Lululemon
what
or
we used to call Kresge's back in Michigan. It was like a little bit below Target if Target was out then.
Like a Walmart.
Yeah, it's like kind of in the Walmart family.
You're not on Rodeo Drive.
Yeah, you're not on Rodeo
Right.
Drive, but you're not on Skid Rodeo, okay? So there you go. I mean, you're doing okay. You're doing
TJ
good.
Maxx. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, TJ Marshalls. There we go. There we go.
I'm a
Marshalls.
Maxinista.
Exactly. There we
And
go.
it's also what you have to understand.
H&M.
is
You can find a gym in Marshalls. Come on now.
when you're going shopping at Marshalls, and I love Marshalls, you're not always going to find the most beautiful things. You're
Exactly.
not always going to get the
Yeah.
greatest return. Sometimes you get something great for a discount and you look like a genius. Sometimes you get Andre Dillard.
Yeah.
Right, and that was the big whiff that has had a chain reaction, kind of.
Right. Quickly, before we get to Mike Vrabel, again, Mike Vrabel speaks to the media in 5 minutes. We'll carry that live in its entirety. Do we expect Mike Vrabel to address any of these reports that were put out over the weekend?
I think if he's asked about it, and that's where I'm hoping somebody asks.
I'm hoping.
Like Jared is going to have Bedard on the show.
Yeah, later.
Yes, Jared will have Greg Bedard, who put out the
Right.
report on the Boston Sports Journal. That'll be, I believe, at 4:30.
So, and look, Jared is not afraid to ask. I would think that if you're going to have Bedard on, that you
You're
give
gonna
Mike Vrabel
ask,
a
yeah.
chance to address it.
Yeah, so I mean, whether it's Jared,
Whether it's Jared or
it's
somebody
Rex
else asking the
or
question,
TD or Paul, I'm sure the question will be asked about the article. Now, how much, Vrabel discussed it. I anticipate him saying, "We're worried about the game we just had. Now we're going to evaluate the game. Our guys did this, they did that, and then we got to get prepared for the Indianapolis Colts." I expect him to stay on point with what he has done for the most part of the season. The first part of the season is to talk about his team now and not try to bring these other distractions.
This is where it takes some skill and maybe some thinking before you go in there, and not just, oh, here comes the question. Like he should be prepared for this and aware of it. That's
I'm sure
what
he
you
saw
do.
that article.
Oh yeah. So I think the key is to say, this is what my relationship with Rand is professional. You don't have to go into all this detail. Here's what we did last Monday. We had Thanksgiving together on Thursday. Like, you don't have to go into a whole,
Right.
and
whether
back through everything.
he's
But
telling
I
his-
think this article tries to throw Rand Carthon under the bus.
Yes.
Right? So this is Mike Vrabel's opportunity to stand up for Rand Carthon and say, look, we're working together. We're meeting every day. We're trying to fix this thing together. And, we're doing this together. It's the collaboration, right? All he's got to do is verify that they're not going off the rails after some tough times.
And we'll see what Mike Vrabel has to say about it coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, Mike Vrabel is up at the podium, so we will send it over to him now.
Just have to, find a way to continue to use that as a weapon and not jump off sides and make it harder for ourselves than what, this game already is.
How do you think Jalen held up first start?
Well, I think it was okay. I mean, I think that there were some good snaps. I think early, got powered and needs to replace his hands, and he settled down, and I thought it did a nice job and had some good snaps. I think that he was conscious. As we look at, Derek maybe cutting back and a guy breaking the framework of his body, and Jalen letting him go and not just, tugging him right there at the point of attack is something that we try to talk to those guys about, where the offensive lineman may not know, they don't know where the running back is, and they're just trying to block them and stay square and get some movement, and then as the back decides to to make his cut wherever they're going, that sometimes these guys shed, and you find a guy that there's some restriction at the point of attack, and I saw that Jalen let the guy go, and Derek was able to get the corner and gain 12 or 15 yards. Would have liked to had a better block on the throw to Chig, but Will made a great throw with pressure, and Chig helped Will out. So that's kind of how it goes sometimes. But I thought it was okay for for his first extended action.
About how much of the time did you leave him single blocked in one-on-one situations yesterday, especially in pass pro?
I mean, a lot of that is, based on, the third down distance, protection. I don't have a certain percentage. It's based on, formation and, some of the first and second down stuff. And, there were some good pockets, on some of the first and second down stuff, which, maybe a few weeks earlier that had been, where some of the breakdown had occurred on some of our play action game. But there were some good pockets that we were able to throw the football from. And then there was some, early on, the third down, they brought 5 guys, and Will didn't have much time to do much.
Scoring-wise, you guys are at home 24 points, on the road is like 11. Is there anything that you could put your finger on to say, like, why it's so different offensively?
I don't want to sit here and say that we've played good defenses, but I know that, that's probably part of it. We have, I think, played good defenses. You look at the, where the Saints were week 1, and, I felt like that was a good defense. And, Pittsburgh on the road, see the type of defense that they play. And that's probably, being realistic. We know that we have to be better. Right now we're focused on, being better at home, because that's where our next game is. And then, attacking those things, and just the details, and just how critical just a few things are when you're on the road, and the noise, and getting off on the snap count, and all those different things that attribute to that. But right now our focus is preparing to win a division game at home.
How real is that energy from the crowd that you guys experience?
Yeah, when we play hard and we play well and we play complimentary, I thought that there was, great energy. And I thought our, defensively, the thing, probably the most proud of and excited about was, that we gave up some plays, or we gave up a third down penalty or conversion or quarterback scramble, and it came back, and there was a long drive that had penalties on it that we held them to a field goal, and then responded after the second half scoring drive, and then kind of kept battling. We got the turnover, and some really good opportunities and cool things in there. We just try to put it together for 60 minutes.
Martin was talking about how meaningful it was for him to see Will break it down in the huddle before the game. When you see that, or some of the other steps Will's taken to be a leader as a rookie, just what does it mean to you to see him take those steps?
Well, we all know how important the quarterback position is in this league and in football, and part of that is, performance based. But I think there's a leadership element to it that has to go on. That everybody has to see that player's invested, and that player's performing and cares as much, if not more, than everybody else.
Jeffrey chases Bryce Young from sideline to sideline and then stays on the field to rush the passer, the very next play. Is that something you show as kind of a teaching moment for your team, what the effort is all about?
That's going to be, that's one of them. Those examples are, there's quite a few of them, and I think that, it was, every week is a challenge, and Bryce did a nice job. I thought, we factored in the middle of the pocket yesterday, and, we'll have to continue to try to contain those quarterbacks that can scramble. But, Jeffrey works hard at his conditioning. He works hard to play a lot of snaps for us and to help us impact the game.
What's the teaching been like with Chig, I guess, throughout the season as he's kind of tried to develop consistency, and how much you hope, yesterday is maybe gives him a little bit of confidence to keep playing well?
Well, I love Chig's energy, love what he can do. I've continued to find ways to get him the ball and some of the details, and he did a very nice job of slipping out of there yesterday. He was, good on the check down, getting out of bounds, knowing that, how he needed to get out of bounds. Got in there and did a nice job on a seal block. We just couldn't get the safety, and so he's again fantastic to work with, fun to work with, and we'll continue to find ways to have him help us in the run game and in the pass game.
How did you go for it on the early fourth down there, and maybe that first drive in general? How important was it to kind of overcome a few different obstacles there on that drive? I guess second drive.
Yeah, I thought it was just felt good about the call. Wanted to try to get it off the call sheet. Been on there for a little bit, so just felt like we needed to get going and needed a spark there, and guys converted, and then we're able to, like you said, go on and lead that to points. That's the most important thing. Whether you fake a punt or you go for it on fourth down and you convert it, you gotta finish it off.
In the last month, 3.5 yards a carry, 5.4 a catch. You kind of assess where he is right now as compared to where he's been when he's kind of brought more explosive play.
Yeah, I think that's just probably based on opportunity. We got to, continue to find ways to get him some opportunities. I meant, it's 3rd and 12 late in the game. We could try to flip a screen out to him, just, take care of the football. And, 3rd and 5, we're going to try to win the game. I think 3rd and 12, you're just trying to make sure that, somebody doesn't, So, again, I think a lot of that's opportunity. Saw him, break the tackle there on the corner and get some yards. And, then I think it's just about opportunity.
You might tell him to get down, take a knee on that spike at the end of the half, or is that just his instinct? Is that how he's coached, or is that his instinct just to kind of take it?
Just stop. You're going to be out. You're going to be off the line of scrimmage, and save your legs and not worry about running down there. You're legal. Just it kind of. Again, I thought that was very well executed. I'm excited that we were able to put that on tape. And for everybody, for the defense to get a stop, for us to go down there offensively and get the ball out of bounds, and then they called timeout, changed the defense. We were able to get Nick down to the 35. Everybody was running. Brew got the ball, got the spot. Tajay just figured might as well just stop and be legal and not worry about anything else. So I thought that was a very impressive play.
Mike, there's nothing better than game reps for rookies. How do you feel like Will's done so far through 5 weeks in regards to taking what he learned from one Sunday into the following week?
Well, I think he continues to improve. I think there's some snaps. I think we, decisions and being able to see some things that come open or pop. And but I felt like, early in the game, pretty efficient and, got the ball out of his hand and, found some matchups that he liked. I thought that, got us going early there with Hop and, the patience there to wait him out and the accuracy. Just making sure that we're not putting the ball in harm's way. A couple layered throws. I'd like to see a better football to Tajay. We can't leave that much air underneath it, and put him in harm and put the ball in harm.
You talk about complimentary football. Ryan Stonehouse set an NFL record last year, but has he been consistently better this year with where he places the ball and specifically kind of those short yardage inside the 10?
I think his ability to mix it up. I think he's worked on more pitches, some different pitches, high with some spin, hook, directional, and then when he's got to, bring the driver out and bang it, he's got that still in his bag. So, I thought special teams was a little closer to what we expect. It wasn't perfect. That was a good unit. They were averaging 34 yards a kickoff return. We know late in the season the ball's going to be in play. So that was something that was a focal point. We were pretty good on our punt coverage. I was excited about the return that we had. Unfortunately, AK just got a little. Obviously supposed to stay on that, upfield shoulder, and the guy 42 kind of crossed his face, and we tugged him. But it would have been cool to have that return. We thought we had a little bit more space. We had the one kickoff return, but the other one we just weren't quite good enough. I thought special teams wise, that was more along the lines of what we were looking like covering kickoffs for most of the day.
5 penalties in the secondary yesterday. Were you seeing common threads? Is it more of a technique thing that you're seeing, or how do you evaluate that?
You can't grab the guy at the top of the route and grab him. There was some good examples of guys being square. But you also, you can't grab them, and, whether we think they are or not, they see it, Thought probably one out of those were probably I disagreed with, but that's how it goes.
The Fulton one?
What's that?
Was that the Fulton one?
No, probably the one SMB one on Thielen, but two-step process. I don't know if he looked back and saw the ball get thrown over here. I'm not sure.
You guys can take care of it.
Which the Fulton one? No, he tackled. He was bear hugging the tight end.
If you can take care of business with the Colts this weekend, do you feel like that gets you back in the fight, or is it still too early to say that?
Yeah, we're looking to fight every week. I think for us to look that far in advance doesn't. We got to focus on this week. We got to focus on health here, recovery, improvement. These little details, these techniques that I know that we can be better at. That we have to.
You feel like you can put the same offensive line on the field for 2 weeks in a row after this week, and how much of an advancement is that for you guys to be able to do that?
Again, I haven't met with Todd. I just, guys, going for different tests, seeing the doctors, and we'll have 8 guys ready to go, ready to execute the game plan, and we'll see where that is, moving forward.
You regularly compliment Danico. Impressed how he just continues to just.
Got a lot of pride. I got a lot of respect for Danico. I just, his ascension from a college player to undrafted, and going to Indy and then coming here and really maintaining that level of performance. Got a lot of respect for him. It means a lot to him. So enjoyed coaching him, enjoyed being around him, and certainly factored yesterday was a large part of our performance.
How's the inside linebacker rotation there with Gibbons and Rice? How's that? Is that predetermined which guys are going to play which series, or is it just kind of a feel thing as you go through the game?
I think it's tried to be predetermined and give them, a couple series each half, whether that be for Gibby or Aziz, and kind of rotate through and, then kind of see where it goes.
I don't know what the word is. Frustrating. I guess first 3 drives, second half, you start off with kind of a big chunk play and weren't able to capitalize on it. Frustrating, disappointing, I guess, there.
Yeah, we just have to, some of them are penalties, some of them are just mistakes, or whether we don't get a guy blocked, or that's what's frustrating. You hit a 20-some yard gain, hit a 15-yarder, and then 3rd and 3 false start, or just don't have very effective plays following that up. Like, it's got to be, okay, on to the next one. Let's get into a drive. Let's get into a rhythm. Great drive starter. And then just not stall.
Worried about 1 week at a time, but how much can you point to, I guess, last year and how much the division changed from this point kind of on to show your guys that there's still a lot of football in front of you and a lot of things that can change?
Yeah, I think there's probably some of that, but we also got to sit there and you got to ride, we got to ride our horse and we got to stay focused on us and just winning. And then that kind of takes care of everything else. And the motivation should be high to win and continue to improve.
Did you get a chance to talk to Frank much yesterday? I know you probably hate any time a head coach loses a job, but just kind of an example of, so need to win in this league to keep your job?
Yeah, I talked to Frank. I've known Frank for a few years, got a lot of respect for him. I think every situation is different. I don't know, why the decision was made. They made a decision, but a lot of respect for Frank, who he is as a person and who he is as a football coach. And, it's, we know what we signed up for.
Middle Tennessee moved on from Rick Stockstill today after 18 years. I know he's been around here a bunch with KBs. Is he a guy you got to know well at all?
Just a little bit, just those coaches around the area, that come for OTAs and, visit with us. And, it's made a quite of impact here in Middle Tennessee and in coaching football. So, hopefully, we'll see him more going forward and based on where he goes on his next job. But it's always welcome here to come and watch practice.
Both Nick and Arden, when they were up here, used the exact phrase, "we owe them," meaning the Colts. Is that just kind of a consensus within the locker room? Was that a message you gave them yesterday or this morning? And can you tap into that at all this week as you prepare?
No, I don't think I can remember saying that we owe them. I mean, we have to come back and win a game in the division at home in Indy, against Indy. So, yeah, I mean, I don't see there being, anything owed. Like, they beat us. We didn't make enough plays. They, played better than we did that day. And, there'll be some things that we'll have to fix. And I'm confident that, we'll be ready and we'll be prepared and we'll play hard.
In protocol, are you hopeful that he can take another step in getting back on the
I'm
field?
hopeful for a lot of things, Jim, but I'll just wait, and see whenever the player, in this particular case, Traylon, clears the protocol, then we'll practice with him. No different than if that was anybody else, or hopeful that we get all our players back that aren't playing right now. So whatever that is, that's what it'll be. And that's all I can say, just because that's how you're supposed to operate within the protocol.
Sean come out of it all right?
Yeah, I would again, I want to reserve the full diagnosis until I've had a chance to talk to Todd, but everything coming out of that game last night or yesterday afternoon was positive as far as how he was able to make it through.
Noticed you chatting with Trace Atkins before the game. You spent much time around him? Did you realize he's that big, and you think he's a football fan?
Well, I know he's a football fan. He is. He's a good man. I've had a chance to meet him before. Good old deep voice, and yeah, he's a lunch pail guy. So I didn't even dawn on me that he was singing the national anthem until I walked out there. So had a chance to catch up with him.
Thank you, Mike.
Trace Atkins?
Nobody gives a damn about asking the question about Trey Atkins. Great performer, great, musician, but why?
Unless he's right. That Mike Vrabel wants his way out of Tennessee. Exactly. We're asking Trace Atkins.
Goodness. But, I'm sure he's going to write a snippet about Vrabel and Trey Atkins meeting up. I get that, but The pressing questions.
I want to report on Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon.
Yes.
No
that's
disrespect
what
to
we
Trace
wanna hear.
Atkins, fan of the show. Hey,
Absolutely.
Trace. Thanks for listening.
Look, I can tell you right now, I believe Mike Vrabel's walking down the hallway back to his office going, I can't believe they didn't ask it. I can't believe they didn't ask it.
I'm sure they're thinking, man, we prepped for this. And
I'm sure he was
about
maybe
Trace
Wednesday.
Atkins.
Maybe Wednesday.
Wednesday's the Colts. Wednesday,
I know.
we're on to Indianapolis.
I know.
Yeah, he could play that card at that point.
Yeah.
If he really is going to be Bill Belichick's predecessor.
I have no idea.
Go ahead and start.
But nobody
filling in the
chose
shoes.
to breach that question with Vrabel, and I was surprised. Maybe those that were in the room didn't think it was newsworthy to ask. I don't know. And then sometimes I guess you just want to go with the flow of the questions that are being asked. You don't want to be that, sore thumb that comes out of, hey, what about the article of you and Rand not getting along? After
But see, it's a
everything
good.
about
That's why
the-
it's a good day to ask it because they're coming off of a win.
A win, yeah.
And you can just say, look,
But
what do you
I'm not a
think? This is out
journalist,
there.
so
Yeah.
I can't. I can't sit here and say what questions they need to ask or not. So.
And to all of the people who are probably thinking when listening to us in their cars or wherever and thinking, well, they're not going to ask it because what do you expect Mike Vrabel to say? I don't know.
I don't know.
That's not my job. That's Mike Vrabel's job to address that in whichever manner he would like to address it. That's Mike Vrabel's job to respond to any of these reports that may have come out to either squash question. I think that's the biggest story in town. That's the biggest story surrounding this team right now is the reports that either Mike Vrabel is, set in stone as the future head coach of this franchise, or, of course, the report from Greg Bedard saying that Vrabel's trying to force his way out of Tennessee. It's pretty juicy stuff. I'm shocked that it was not asked. But we will continue the conversation coming up next. We'll get back into Diana Rossini and Greg Bedard reports. But we did have a Titans game yesterday. A recap of the game yesterday, our takeaways, and really how much are we taking away from a win against the worst team in the NFL. We'll get into that coming up next, and your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Happy Monday and happy Titan Victory Monday, should I say. So if you bet on the Titans, then I just know that you use Zen Sports, which you've been hearing me talk about for the last 2 or 3 months. But check this out. This is an app that's exclusively in Tennessee, and I'm excited to share with you some big news here. Now, when you sign up for a Zen Sports account, you will receive a $1,000 no danger first wager. That's right. When you place your first bet with Zen Sports, you can be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $1,000 maximum if the bet loses. And there's even more good news. Zen Sports is rolling out its brand new VIP program. This new VIP program will allow top-tier customers to earn more bonuses, comps, and perks. And who doesn't like that all together? The VIP program is by invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, please check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. No other sportsbook will offer you a premier sports betting experience with 24/7 top-tier customer support and faster withdrawals like Zen Sports. So what are you waiting for? Get going and download the app at zensports.com today. Zen Sports, betting just got better. Gambling problems? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
Scoring-wise, you guys are at home 24 points, on the road is like 11. Is there anything that you could put your finger on to say, like, why it's so different offensively?
I don't want to sit here and say that we've played good defenses, but I know that, that's probably part of it. We have, I think, played good defenses. You look at where the Saints were week 1, and I felt like that was a good defense. And Pittsburgh on the road, see the type of defense that they play, and that's probably, being realistic. We know that we have to be better. Right now, we're focused on, being better at home because that's where our next game is, and then, attacking those things and just the details and just how critical just a few things are when you're on the road, and the noise and getting off on the snap count and all those different things that attribute to that. But right now our focus is preparing to win a division game at home.
That was Mike Vrabel, who spoke with the media. Caroline Willy, D-Mase. Join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason at Teddy's Tavern this Sunday from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. for our NFL pregame show. They'll break down the Titans' Week 13 matchup against the Colts and give you the latest updates before the game. Our NFL pregame show is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Beast Unleashed. We'll get back into the Diana Rossini and Greg Bedard reports, but let's break down what we saw on the field yesterday. The Titans take down the Carolina Panthers 17-10. How much can we take away from this game, really? Because the defense looked better, but also that's a really bad offense and a really bad offensive line. Carolina ranks statistically at the bottom of the league in nearly every single offensive category. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the offensive line looked like they held their own pretty well yesterday, but how much of that was you're playing the Carolina Panthers? I don't think that there's really anything that I saw yesterday that dramatically shifts my thoughts on this team one way or another.
Was there any news coming out of Carolina this morning?
The news?
Was there any? It's interesting. Did the Panthers have anything to report today?
that they parted ways with Frank Reich.
Yes.
Okay. Congratulations. You are now the team that when you lose to them, your coach gets fired.
He's only been there for a year, not even a year.
This was game 11 for Frank Reich.
There's something to be said. Just getting the winning feeling. It's got to give you a little bit of confidence, especially for some of the guys that are just trying to inch forward, build a little traction, like Daniels, right? The left tackle, Duncan. I'm sorry, Jalen Duncan. Trying to throw him in there, see if he can. It's like you throw him out in the deep end, see if the guy can swim. You really have no other option right now, and they got to win. And he wasn't overwhelmed, but yet in the big picture here, that might have been the only team that they could have beaten yesterday. They didn't have to do anything on offense. They finally got a turnover that they turned into a touchdown. That might have been the game. If that's a punt fest back and forth, it probably goes down to the last couple possessions. It still went down to the last possession. But it was basically, let's not turn it over. We don't think that the Panthers can score. The Panthers really shouldn't have scored. I mean, the one touchdown that drive they had, they kept the drive alive 2 or 3 times with penalties on 3rd and long that had nothing to do with the play, way away from where the play went.
It was, a 3rd and 19?
On one of them, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't that was a pathetic team that's going nowhere. So you beat them, and it wasn't easy.
And 4th and 6, game on the line, and as we have now learned, job on the line. That's the best play you can draw up. Is a screen pass short of the sticks?
I couldn't believe the play call. I really couldn't, because now you essentially, with that play, you take away your quarterback from potentially making a play with his legs for you. I did not understand that play. Not
there was a minute and a half left in the game. Carolina absolutely could have gone down the field and scored had they been able to convert. Right.
Exactly. So, but this. One, it was a snooze fest. It really was.
It was not. It was not fun to watch.
What did Adam Amin say? If you're watching this game, you must really love football.
And he has a point there, because you contrast that to the Jacksonville and Houston game that was on the other channel, and that game was full-fledged. They were into it. The announcers were into it. It turned out to be a really good game at the end. But the Titans game was basically indicative of the weather. That's just how it was. The weather was gloomy. The Titans game was gloomy. There were some positives in there. Jalen Duncan, I believe, like I said earlier, he did a good job. He held his own. I think that's, regardless of who it is in front of you, I think it's a momentum. It's like a momentum builder for that individual person.
Like a Conquo.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Strung together a couple catches. Okay.
I don't care who it's against. Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't care who it's against. Exactly.
A-okay
with me. As long as you don't drop the ball, you can catch it and fall down. I don't care. You can gain 2 yards, just catch the ball.
And that's where we're at, though.
Yeah, that's where we're at with Chig, and that's unfortunate. But Vrabel was asked about Chig, and was this a good game for him to kind of build his confidence up on the catches, whatnot. But I think this was a confident sort of builder as well for Jalen Duncan. Again, he wasn't going against the Cleveland Browns or New Orleans Saints or the San Francisco 49ers, one of these really good defenses. But you're asking a rookie to come in and play a position after you went through these musical chairs with everybody else, and you're asking him to play a position, and he needs to play it at a high level right away. I think they did a good job at communicating. He and Peter Skoronski, I think he did a good job at holding on to his blocks. There were a few times where he didn't. I think he held his own at protecting Will Levis. Again, there were 1 or 2 instances where he got pushed back, he got beat on the sack. But those are things that is going to happen as a rookie. You just hope now as he moves forward, he builds on that, gains that confidence, say, okay, listen, I can play in this league. So that was one of the bright spots. Derrick Henry was a bright spot. He got going a few times, in the run game, but you can contribute that to the offensive line doing their job as well. It was good to see Chig involved in the game. Will Levis did some good things. He missed, I don't know if he missed D-Hop on that crossing route, or I think what he saw was the safety near the, saw the safety I don't think you can see on television, because all you saw on television was the pass behind D-Hop. But the safety is out there, and I think he was trying to slow D-Hop down. D-Hop may not have saw that safety come down, and that could have been potentially, a interception-worthy throw. He had 2 of those.
Which he had a couple.
Yeah, he had 2 of them that last game.
Like 3 or 4 yesterday.
Yeah, I know 2 that were like blatant, NFL, INT-worthy throws.
Like if that's not the Panthers, that's probably picked off.
But I think that pass to D-Hop, I think he saw the safety coming down, and he wanted to slow D-Hop down. So,
D-Base, what did you think? There was another one that the TV replay showed where D-Hop busts wide open. He's calling for the ball.
Yeah,
deep,
I saw
and
that.
Levis threw intermediate.
But
but like you say all the time, sometimes that doesn't tell you the whole story.
It doesn't, because I think sometimes the play is designed to go on the other side, and you're anticipating a certain defense, and it seems like they're giving you that look. And you may, on that single side, I think he was singled up, or it might have been another individual, another receiver over there. I think it was 2x2. He's not your primary guy. He's like 3rd in the progression, maybe even 4th. So you're going through your progressions, and because it was 3rd and 3rd and 6, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
it was 3rd and medium.
You're trying to pick up the first down.
It wasn't 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 12. So you're trying to pick up the first down quickly. I don't think he ever saw D-Hop until he had already determined where he was going to throw it as he was releasing the ball. Yeah, D-Hop did come wide open. The safety did rotate out of the middle of the field. But you can't always blame that on the quarterback, because his eyes are over here, because that's the primary side.
And all of us on TV are going, oh, my God,
why
he's
throw
wide open.
You know how many guys in a game, run after sort of the play or after he's determined? How many guys are wide open running down the opposite side of the field? It happens more times than not.
And
it's harder to see the entire field the entire time than you might think.
And there was one instance, it was 3rd and 8, where Chig was wide open, and then Will Levis elected to hit Chris Moore deep in double coverage. So that's one of those situations where you can take the check down, But I think the difference here was Chris Moore was in double coverage.
Mm-hmm.
D-Hop in that instance looked at least to be wide open.
He came open a little later. Had he come open, bam, right now, but it was a post route, so he's not going to come open immediately. But if it was a situation where the guy was pressed, because the guy was off, he was playing off coverage. If he's pressed, then I think Will Levis's brain goes to the press coverage with D-Hop one-on-one. I'm taking that every time. So he would have then looked. But he saw the guy off. He saw coverage. So he's like, okay, in this coverage, this is what I need to read. And he read it the way, he probably read it in practice.
What did you make of the Spears play? Where he just got blown up. I'm sure as a receiver, you absolutely despise plays like that because safety's just, foaming at the mouth.
You can't leave your receiver out to dry. You can't hang him out to dry like that. That was a pop fly, and luckily, he didn't get. If that was football 10 years ago, he would have got straight ran through, and it wouldn't have been a penalty at all. But you could see the defender he didn't go at him full-fledged. He sort of kind of went at him with his chest and hit him. I don't know. Did they pick up the flag on that one?
They picked up the flag on that and an earlier flag that they threw
where
pick. Hopkins was.
Yeah, they called it. Because he was at the line of scrimmage, it's not considered a pick. So they picked both of them up. That's sort of like, I'm glad the refs conversated about it. Gathered up about it, because you look at that play and it's like, what else is the defender supposed to do? Let him catch it? Then, because
then gently tackle.
Exactly. That's a play. It's a bang bang play.
With a pillow.
He didn't launch. He didn't go in, with his helmet or shoulders. He went in more so with his body. And it was the quarterback's fault. He should have thrown it more on a line to get it to Tajay, but he put a loft on it, which allowed the safety to recover.
It's still a great example, though, of today's game, because I did wonder about what exactly is a defenseless receiver.
Yeah, you always wonder what it is.
It's like you said, you can't, if you're the DB, you can't just let him catch the ball.
Yeah.
But that was sort of where he was. He did launch up high. He didn't hit him in the head.
Yeah.
He hit him in the shoulder. But you could argue that he's defenseless, and he's defenseless because the ball's floated up there and he's hanging out to dry. That used to be what you just can't do.
Oh, no.
But now
you can.
The quarterback will throw it like that.
Exactly.
He'll intentionally underthrow it.
Yeah.
And sort of hang the guy out to dry in some cases to try to get the PI, which works half the time.
It does work half the time.
But
do you
that
think
was
it should have been a penalty?
No, I don't. And I don't think I wanted them to show Vrabel and see what his demeanor was.
Because we saw Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Derrick Henry.
Chirping
right,
at the Carolina sideline. He was pissed.
I
think he was mad because the guy was yelling at the official and looking at the jumbotron when Spears was down. Like at that point, you weren't sure if Spears was okay.
Absolutely.
He's looking after his guy.
Yeah, so you expected him. But then when you go back and watch the film, that's something that you want your player to be able to do. You can't. That's why I wanted them to show Vrabel and see what his demeanor was on that particular play after he watched it on the replay.
Especially as a defensive player.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, as a defensive player, what are you supposed to do? He did the right thing by not launching, not leading with his helmet. He came in sort of like with his chest, and it was a bang bang play. Those plays, I believe, are allowed. Now, some refs, as soon as they hear pow, they're gonna throw the flag, and it's not even.
Yeah, it's
that
like
egregious.
Second nature now. It's like, that's a flag.
Exactly.
He's
that's
defenseless.
a flag no matter what. He's defenseless. But I think in that situation, you got to go back and allow it to, just allow the play. I think that's one play that should be reviewed. You should have the capability to review if you called it.
Kind of like the college game,
exactly,
where they can review it.
Yes, where you can review it. That's a play, because a lot of times you see those things that are going so fast, I got to throw the flag. But then you go back and you look at him like, wow, that wasn't, unnecessary roughness.
Right.
That was just a clean hit. So
That's one that I think is incredibly tricky. And the NFL is now in this gray area of, 10, 15 years ago, that would have been on SportsCenter top 10. But it's also not football of 10 to 15 years ago. No. And there's certain hits and tackles that the NFL wants to take away from the game to eliminate those injuries. But also on the other side of it, it's the same thing of what do you expect him to do?
Yeah.
You're playing football at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If you want to just play flag football, we can do that. We can have a totally different discussion. So it was one of those that could you have kept it as a hit on a defensive receiver or an unnecessary roughness? Sure. Yes. And I don't think that I really would have disagreed with it. I also didn't really disagree with him picking up the flag.
Yeah, it was what it was.
I'm glad Tajay Spears is okay.
Yeah. Bang, bang play. So
let's continue it coming up next. Continue our evaluation of Will Levis coming up next because there are some throws in there that I think Will Levis would have liked to have had back. So our evaluation of what we saw from Will Levis yesterday, your evaluation of what you saw from Will Levis and the Titans yesterday, 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you have a thought. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063, The Game.
There's nothing better than game reps for rookies. How do you feel like Will's done so far through 5 weeks in regards to taking what he learns from one Sunday into the following week?
Well, I think he continues to improve. I think there's some snaps. I think we, decisions and being able to see some things that come open or pop. But I felt like, early in the game, pretty efficient and, got the ball out of his hand and, found some matchups that he liked. I thought that, got us going early there with Hop and, the patience there to wait him out and the accuracy. Just making sure that we're not putting the ball in harm's way. A couple layered throws. I'd like to see a better football to Tajay. We can't leave that much air underneath it and put him in harm and put the ball in harm.
Now, that's the ball that we were just discussing from Will Levis, one area that looked like a rookie mistake, that you cannot leave your receiver hanging out to dry like that. Like we saw yesterday with Tajay Spears when he got blown up by Carolina safety Xavier Woods. But that was Mike Vrabel's quick evaluation of Will Levis, what we saw from him yesterday. And this is something that we were just kind of discussing at the break. The bigger and bigger sample size we get of Will Levis week over week, the more we're starting to see some of those rookie mistakes come to fruition. I thought that first touchdown drive was great. I thought Will Levis was great. I thought Derrick Henry was great. I thought that the quick pass to Nick Westbrook-Akine to get into field goal range before the half.
Yeah, that was well done.
I thought that was very well done, very well executed, well orchestrated. But there were
And
some...
Nick Folk hits another 50-plus yard field goal. Jared
Folk does it again.
Did you notice?
Strong
I'm sure
leg.
you did.
Strong leg.
And Stonehouse.
Yes.
Between those two as special teams,
Yeah.
I mean, they've got punter of the year, which might be kind of depressing when one of your highlights is your punter. But still, hey. But some passes yesterday that I saw, I counted between 3 and 4 balls that Will Levis threw yesterday that I thought could have been picked.
Yeah. Interception-worthy throws.
Yeah.
Which there is a stat for some analytic sites that you see
I'm
that.
sure. And, it seems like, and this is where I think Will has to get better because this is not the only game that he's had at least 2 interception-worthy throws. Even in the first game, he started, I think he had one or 2. But after that game, he's had at least 2 interception-worthy throws, and that's where he needs to get better. I know sometimes he trusts, and he's going to have to figure out when to trust his arm and when not. When do I need to try to make that throw, and when don't I? And he will hopefully learn that the more games he play. But the pass that they tried to hit to D-Hop on a 3rd and I think it was like 3rd and 6. D-Hop ran a little. There was 3-by-1. D-Hop ran a little. I call it a sit route, right at the sticks, and the linebacker read it perfectly. Luckily, that was an interception because at the time the game was 14-10, I believe, or was it 17-10 already? And if you get that interception, it may change the whole scope of the game because it would have been in your territory.
Just how the turnover that you forced completely changed
the game for you. Actually, it won you the game.
It won you the game.
Because you essentially, that was the go-ahead touchdown. And then the screenplay was a interception-worthy throw.
Boy,
that was just, plays like that, I think you just have to dirt it.
Ryan Tannehill probably was thinking back to the Bengals game. Could that ball have why couldn't I get the ball to drop to the turf like that?
Exactly.
One time. Because remember, that one near the, when the ball's deflected up in the air like that, it is complete chance of where it goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So, and then I would say the way he threw the Tajay Spears pass, if you are going up against a better secondary, that may be intercepted as well. But you got away with it. So to me, that's 3. And you guys may have more, guys and girls may have more, but those are the 3 that I saw as interception worthy that didn't get intercepted.
At the half, I really liked how the game was going for the offense. They cashed it in the red zone a couple times. Their confidence looks up. They ran the 2-minute drill. The second half was a little baffling to me. Like, they had a couple of drive starters where he throws a dart. And you're like, yeah, okay, momentum, here we go. 3 and out right after that. It was like they abruptly ended drives, and it ended up being okay because Carolina just couldn't score. They had the lead, so they just sort of had the luxury of not having to score the entire second half. But I would have loved to have seen one or two more scoring drives to cap off a good game. But he's having moments where he makes some throws where I'm like, yeah, I really like what I'm seeing here. I like his demeanor. I like his enthusiasm. I think the team likes him. And there's going to be some growing. I wonder about this too. Now, the more he plays, the more I think defensive coordinators see what he does well. And so I think he's in that process now of, okay, the defense knows I can make this throw. These are the plays that I like. Now they're trying to take those away or make it tougher. Do I have that next wrinkle that I can work off of that? I think that's part of the process here too.
And I think there's a rookie tendency, a quarterback tendency in general, when you're under pressure of maybe eyeing a receiver down. I think that was maybe his issue yesterday with that throw to D-Hop on the sideline, where, like you mentioned, D-Mase, the linebacker just read it perfectly. And I think the more sample size you get of Will Levis, the more you start to see, the more that I've noticed, that DeAndre Hopkins is his security blanket, which is something that we've talked about a lot of why you keep a guy like D-Hop, because a veteran receiver that seems to catch nearly every single ball that comes his way is a rookie quarterback, a young quarterback's best friend. But then you start to see the other side of that, of when maybe those throws are pre-calculated. I think Will Levis is really, really talented with escaping pressure, being able to step up to avoid pressure and still continue to make those plays. But the other one that I thought could have been intercepted was that long ball to Chris Moore that he threw into double coverage. That maybe if that's a different secondary, maybe if that's a little bit more of a heads up from the corner, that ball could have been picked. The second half offense was a concern to me. This is the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
And you can muster
You'd
up
like
17
to see them
points at
go
home.
in for the kill and put them away. That would have been a nice thing.
It seemed like they reverted back to last season when they had their second half woes. And they just couldn't, for whatever reason, they couldn't get anything going. Because, again, I think the offensive line did an okay job. It wasn't great, but it wasn't like we've seen in previous weeks, especially last week. I thought they gave them enough time so they can do some things in the passing game that they wanted to do, but it just seemed like they were never in sync as a unit.
And the offensive line penalties.
Yeah,
That
you can't
really
have
killed it. You can't
false
have that.
starts and all that. You can't
False starts
have,
at home?
At home.
Yeah, at home. You can't beat yourself before you get the play going, and that's what they did a few times. So, they got to figure this out, because now, we hung our hat on them being able to score 20-something points a game at home. Well, against a bad Carolina team, you couldn't score nothing but really, as an offense, if the defense doesn't put you in a position really to score, you only score 10 points. And I get it. Hey, listen, it's all a part of the game. I get it.
Right.
But they never seemed like in that second half they were in sync.
Right. Once again, isn't it nice that they were – Mike Vrabel had to be loving it. We're actually leading. We don't have to score. Like the last couple
Can run the ball.
Yeah, we can keep giving it to Derrick Henry. And unfortunately, they didn't knock the trees down. I think they were hoping, okay, just keep running it, occasional pass, and then boom, we're going to hit a big one here, and we're going to put them away. They never did that. But because they're playing the Panthers, they still get a W. Whereas contrast that to the 2 games down in Florida, where they're behind, can't get anything going, have to throw. So this game on Sunday, to me, is going to be interesting. I feel like they're due to play a really close game. This would be a good gauge. The Colts are favored by 2.5 points in a stadium where the Titans are 4-0. And the Colts have, obviously, Gardner Minshew playing. They're not a great team. But they beat the Bucs last week. The Colts have overachieved. They got to be pretty happy with how their season's gone.
And they beat you earlier this season. They
Yes.
beat you the way that you want to win football games, running the ball, playing good defense.
I think this will be a good gauge because the Colts are not a powerhouse, but they're feeling good about themselves. They're still kind of hanging on to hopes of making something happen this year. Can the Titans be a little bit of the spoiler? I think this will be a good test because the Panthers, they're checked out. Like, just fired their coach. You could feel that they didn't put up much of a fight. I don't think you can really gauge much from this game if you're the Titans.
I
think we will be able to gauge something on Sunday.
I would agree. We'll see what TD's thoughts are on that, what he saw from the Titans and Will Levis yesterday. Also, TD's thoughts, what he has heard from the Diana Rossini reports, from the Greg Bedard report in the Boston Sports Journal. We'll chat with TD, Teron Davenport, coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Joining us now is TD Teron Davenport. TD, always appreciate our weekly chats with you. Hope you had a very happy and healthy and safe Thanksgiving weekend and enjoyed the game yesterday. We'll get your thoughts on the game, what you saw offensively, defensively, what you saw from Will Levis. But I want to start here with a report that came out over the weekend from Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal. Of course, a longtime NFL reporter, has a ton of sources in and around the league. He put out a piece, and one of the paragraphs says that the marriage between Vrabel and Rand Carthon, in his words, was a shotgun marriage by ownership. Says NFL sources believe the league had a heavy hand in owner Amy Adams-Strunk hiring Rand Carthon, and says that Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon don't have much of a relationship. From the conversations that you have had, is there any validity to that? And what is the relationship between Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon like?
You know, that's very disrespectful to say that the league had a hand in forcing Amy Adams-Strunk to hire a general manager. That's disrespectful to her. It's supremely disrespectful to Rand Carthon. And it just confuses me why there's even a report out that this man didn't, basically pointing to that he didn't deserve the job. This nonsense about him supposedly being have his job performance questioned by, in San Francisco or other places. I will tell you firsthand, I spoke to John Lynch directly about Rand Carthon. There was not a single doubt that he would be an excellent general manager. I've spoken to other people across the league about Rand Carthon. There have been no people that I've spoken to that didn't say that he was a great personnel guy, a person who is a great people person and that would do really good things in the job. So wherever that is coming from, I don't know. It's just ridiculous, and it's ironic that it's attached to some desire for Mike Vrabel to go to New England or whatever the narrative that's being pushed. So I will say that as far as their relationship is concerned, not really something that, from what I've spoken to a lot of people in this building, not really something to be concerned. These are guys that, consistently come together and discuss personnel things. And you look at some of the, trade offers or trades that have been made. It's something that was, discussed. So exactly where that stuff is coming from, I don't know. I'm not one to question anybody's sources or anything like that. I just know the people that I've spoken to, and it's completely different than what's attached there. But again, I will say it again, it's very disrespectful to Rand Carthon to have the audacity to put something out there that this man has his job because the league forced it. That's bull crap.
I'm with you, TD. It's something that we touched on earlier in the show. I said it's frustrating that it always has to come back to this, that it always has to come back to, in this Greg Bedard piece, that he was a minority candidate. It's frustrating, I'm sure, for Rand Carthon, Amy Adams-Strunk, and all parties involved. But there's another report that came out over the weekend from Diana Rossini of The Athletic, and she writes that based on multiple conversations with high-ranking Titans officials, the franchise strongly and collectively believes that it has the right coach for long-term success. Is that confirmed maybe some of the conversations that you've had with the Titans ownership and Titans front office?
Yeah, I kind of laugh at that being viewed as breaking news. It's kind of like, somebody from another state coming here to Nashville and eating at a very good restaurant. All the locals know it's a good restaurant, and they're going and saying, hey, the rest of the country, this is a good restaurant. Everybody says, hey, I'm going to start going there. Like, we've known this.
Nashville's got some great hot chicken.
Yeah. This isn't something that, myself or Paul Kaharski or anybody, like, it's not something that we didn't know. It's not something that we haven't spoken about, so exactly why it's looked upon as breaking news is just, it is what it is. But, I mean, it is definitely in line with the things that, a lot of us have gathered. And, it comes out, sometimes in the media room, like we have discussions, and this is what is kind of the general consensus from all of us in the building.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, Teron, that, at this juncture of the season, this is what supposedly is happening, or someone chooses to put this out in regards to Rand Carthon. This was a hire that I think the organization needed to get right, especially the way it all ended with John Robinson. And I don't think Amy would have hired someone based solely on the pressure of the NFL. She wants to hire the person that she believes is going to be best for her organization and putting them in a position to win a Super Bowl. So it's unfortunate because none of it came out in vetting at the beginning, which you probably thought would come out if anything was sort of going left, or any apprehensions on him as a GM. It would have came out then, but it didn't. But all of a sudden, it comes out now. And whether it's true or not, I don't know. But it just seems like it's real convenient for it to come out now when the Titans are doing bad, New England's doing bad, and it seems like they want, Vrabel up in New England as bad as just about anything. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about Will Levis and what have you seen from him? Because I think I see the progression, but I also see a guy that is a rookie. And there are some throws which we've deemed, interception-worthy throws that he's had. He's had at least, a couple each game. Fortunately enough for him, they haven't been interceptions on those throws. But what have you seen from him, yesterday and then subsequently the weeks before then?
Yeah, to your point, he should have probably about 3 or 4
exactly.
more interceptions. Fortunately for his sake, he was throwing to DBs, and DBs at times can't catch. But, all jokes aside, I think when you look at what he's been able to do, I love what Arden Key said today when he said that, Will Levis is a guy that, has poise. And he said that Levis is the one that broke them down before the game. And he talked about how he told the guys that, I look around here and I see a bunch of dogs. Let's go out there and play like one. And it's pretty refreshing, for a team to have a rookie quarterback like that, just kind of settle in and be able to say those words. Look at a group of men, for the most part, that are older than him, you know what I mean, and be able to rile them up and get them ready to go. So you do have that. On the field, I mean, for me, there are times where the ball is put in harm's way, but I do like the way that he continues to take a hit and he just comes back and he's willing to stand in there. Like that throw to Chigakonkwo on the wheel route from the fullback position. And listen, Brian Burns, he rocked him. You know what I mean? But he stood in there and he made that throw. And it's funny because if you watch him pregame, and I've posted some videos of it where he'll just kind of be sitting there and he's tossing, you think he's not really working on anything, but he's actually literally working on throwing the ball down the field off his back foot. So to see some of the stuff that he works on pregame transfer into the game is pretty cool. So you have those things. I would like to see him run a little bit more, to get himself out of harm's way. But overall, I think he's done a solid job. There were a few times where he took some shots, where he may have missed underneath, but, I mean, that's something he's continuing to work on. So I think for the most part, it's been promising.
Now, what did you think of Jalen Duncan? I thought he did a good job. He was better than he was better than Dillard and Radens at that position. Like Will Levis, he did have his moments, but it wasn't a lot of them. But I think he and Peter Skoronski worked really well in tandem. That left side of the offensive line it looks promising. Obviously, we know what Skoronski could do at left guard. At tackle, Jalen Duncan, he at one point, there were people who had a first-round grade on him at one point in his last year. And I know from speaking to Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl director, he spoke very highly of Duncan, and they love his athleticism. So that's something. Obviously, he led the Big Ten. I think it was in sacks allowed or false starts, one of the two. And you saw both of those things, a pressure come up, and then you saw the false start in his first official start. So
it's still promising. He's a work in progress, just like, any other younger player. But I think you do have something to build on. And, if he could settle in and be the left tackle, they're in really good shape. And the thing you got to remember is not all left tackles are first-round, top 5 picks. You got a guy by the name of Jason Peters who was an undrafted free agent. Now, I'm not saying Duncan will be Peters, but he's an example of how you could get a tackle that, isn't a marquee player coming into the league. And then conversely, you saw the highly drafted left tackle from the Carolina Panthers yesterday, and they were taking turns on him. So, where you find a left tackle is irrelevant. You just got to find them, and, there's a possibility that they found him.
We're talking to Teron Davenport. And, Teron, I don't want to harp too much on this article, but I want to get your perspective because you're in there every day. And part of the article, and I agree with you 100% what we've covered, it's a hatchet job on Rand Carthon. And it's all sort of designed to paint this picture of Vrabel is trying to get out of Tennessee so that then maybe the Patriots can get him. That's kind of what they're, that's going to sell. That's going to get clicks in New England. No question about it. But what it says basically is, or it implies, is that there's not a great relationship between Carthon and Vrabel. I haven't picked up on anything like that, but I have noticed that Carthon has kind of faded to the backdrop a little bit. He hasn't been as accessible to the media. I haven't seen him at press conferences very much. But is there any reason to believe that they aren't still in the same mode that we've seen? I know it's challenging when there's adversity, but the whole collaborative effort, I mean, I'm assuming they're still meeting regularly, they're talking, and there's not anything other than what you would expect friction-wise on a team that's 4-7.
Yeah, well, I've been working on a story for about 3 to 4 weeks about this, and it's going to be coming out soon. And I'll tell you, even just from watching their interaction at practice, watching their interaction pregame, there's not an issue. If there's an issue, these guys are, we're working with, pick 2 actors, we're working with Tom Cruise and Morris Chestnut playing roles. That's how I look at it. But, seriously, I don't see issues. I mean, obviously, you're going to have disagreements, and that's, as men, you have those, or as adults, you have them, and you move on. And in some cases, those disagreements, they forge a even stronger relationship. So for me, looking at this, yes, they didn't know each other before this, arrangement was done. And I don't even want to call it arrangement before, Rand became the GM and Vrabel became the head coach. But you look, there's similarities. And that's one of the things why it was so easy for the staff to kind of stay in place, because there's ties back to the Belichick way, right? Let's not forget, Mike Vrabel obviously has the Belichick ties. Belichick has ties to Maurice Carthon, who coached for Bill Parcells and also was on the staff with Bill Belichick. So there's a lot of similarities there as far as like how they look at the game, how they, digest the game and everything like that. So those are common ground. So, yeah, they may not have known each other personally, like to say, hey, how's Tyler, or hey, how's so. It may not have been like that, but it came together. And I don't, from what I've seen, I don't really see there being any issues. But, obviously, when there's a narrative to be pushed, you want to make sure that narrative is pushed and you don't take into consideration facts. And I think that may be the case here.
Yeah, and the hyperbole is, well, Vrabel's trying to find his way out of Tennessee so he could be in the mix to replace Belichick. But
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, though. Why on earth would you want to leave this situation and go there? Did you see the way Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi played yesterday?
Oh, it's awful.
Don't want to see it.
It's
scored
so
7
bad
against the Giants.
The situation that they have there in New England. Not to say that it's ideal with the Titans, but I mean, at least here
it is a train wreck.
Buku cash to spend next year. You got a guy who appears to be your franchise quarterback. It's a much better situation. So why would he even want to leave to go there anyway?
Well,
that's beyond me.
Yeah, and that's what I was leading up to with my question, because I do think there is something about being the new guy that comes into a rebuilding situation as opposed to the guy who's had success and now is going through that down cycle and has to bring it back up. And that's my one question, that is Mike Vrabel poised to do this? Because not everybody survives that type of thing, right? Sometimes you end up being the fall guy when you're going through a rebuilding process. So does he want this?
I mean, it seems to me that he does. I don't, I don't get any vibe that he doesn't want it. And obviously, going back home to, well, not home, going back to where, you had your most success as a player would probably be cool. But also in that article, it points to somebody else, a different former Patriot, as a guy who's likely going to get the job in Gerard Mayo.
And that shouldn't be overlooked.
It just confuses me. Yeah, and it just the whole, I don't know, the whole story, it confuses me. We all have different ways that we do work. That's not my style, as far as to try to, put something out there to put dirt on somebody's name. That's not how I do. So I'm not going to be able to relate to that. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's pretty much all I can say on that one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's come out now, and it's come out in a situation where, the season isn't going as well, as the Titans expected. Now, on the flip side, the defense, again, take it with a grain of salt because look at who they were playing,
right?
But the defense, and one player in particular, Danico Autry, he showed up, and he showed up big. This is what we have been wanting to see from this defensive front for the last, 4 or 5 weeks, and we haven't gotten it. But we got it last night in their victory against the they played them this week, the Carolina Panthers. Do you see them maintaining this level of play? Because, again, I haven't seen this Danico Autry in a very long time.
Yeah, I can't say they've given me any reason to believe for sure that they'll come out with the same energy and efficiency and success as they did yesterday because, obviously it hasn't been consistent. I mean, this is a team that, let's be honest, that front four specifically has really been underwhelming as compared to what the expectations were. But one thing I do like is the way that they're making sure, they find the matchup and they exploit it. Like Ikem Ekwonu, the top 5 left tackle pick, he had Bryce Young under siege, and they were rotating. Jeffrey Simmons would go out there, get his. It was like Oprah. You ever see when, she's like, and you get a phone, and you get a phone, and hey, you get a sack, you get a sack. And that's kind of how it was. Arden Key getting a turn, Danico Autry, as you mentioned, Simmons, Harold Landry getting a turn. And it just continued to be rotated like that. And I do like the way that they were able to find that matchup and attack it. But, look, this team on the road especially has not really gotten after the quarterback like that. Maybe at home, they could continue their success. They're 4-0. They're one of 4 teams undefeated at home. If you look at the record, it says 4-1, but remember that one quotation mark home game was in London, so – yeah, I think there's a chance, but there's no guarantee because they haven't given us anything consistent to see, when you talk about being successful.
Last one from me, TD, as we touch on the defense. Mike Vrabel touched on how they kind of went back to the basics with the defensive front, at least. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. Don't try and get cute with it. Just get back to the basics and just get to the quarterback. I know that Nick Suss and the Tennessean touch on mac and cheese. How the recipe is simple. It's in the name. Don't get cute with it. Don't try and fix what's not broken. Did we see the fruits of that yesterday, or was it the Carolina Panthers, or is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, well, that mac and cheese concept, that's a video that Mike Vrabel showed the team, specifically the defense, and that's something that Arden Key touched on. They made an effort, and he said that's what he saw in Jacksonville and he saw in San Francisco. And obviously, last year, Jacksonville was a successful program, right? And we know the 49ers and their pedigree. So it's the right way to go about it. I think what we saw yesterday was a combination of the two, right? Regardless of whether they're a really bad team or not, the Panthers, that is, they're still getting paid to play. Like, they're still professionals. So you have to go out there and do what you got to do. And I think, just going back to the basics is something that really helped them. And what happens along the line is sometimes you forget just the simple fundamentals, and that's what Arden Key said that they worked on. That's what Jeffrey Simmons said was a focal point as well. And that's where the focus was. And usually when you focus on something, it yields results. So I would say a part of it was because of that.
TD, we love you. We appreciate you. And we thank you so much for your time today. We'll chat next week.
All right. Appreciate it. Much love. You all take care.
All right. Thanks, TD. Appreciate it. TD, Teron Davenport will react to what TD had to say there, and especially his reaction to the Greg Bedard report, who I almost just called Connor Bedard. The Connor Bedard report in the Boston Sports Journal on the relationship between Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel, contrasting what Diana Rossini reported at The Athletic. We'll get into that coming up next, and of course, we'll get into your phones as well, 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Hey, Nashville, what's going on? I'm here to talk to you about Zen Sports, the new sports betting app exclusively in Tennessee. And I've been talking about this the last 3 or 4 months now. And I'm excited to share with you some big news, okay? Now, when your first bet with Zen Sports, you can be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $1,000 maximum if the bet loses. And there's even more good news, people. Zen Sports is rolling out its brand new VIP reward program. This VIP reward program will allow top-tier customers to earn more bonuses, comps, and perks. The VIP program is only by invite, people, so you got to get an invite, all right? So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, this is what you do, all right? Go to the website and check the program details, and the website is zensports.com/VIP, zensports.com/VIP. No other sports book will offer you a premier sport betting experience with 24/7 top-tier customer support service and faster withdrawals like Zen Sports. So, what are you waiting for? Get going and download their app at zensports.com today. Zen Sports, betting just got better. Gambling problems? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
There's another report that came out over the weekend from Diana Rossini of The Athletic, and she writes that based on multiple conversations with high-ranking Titans officials, the franchise strongly and collectively believes that it has the right coach for long-term success. Is that confirmed maybe some of the conversations that you've had with the Titans ownership and Titans front office?
Yeah, I kind of laugh at that being viewed as breaking news. It's kind of like, somebody from another state coming here to Nashville and eating at a very good restaurant. All the locals know it's a good restaurant, and they're going and saying, hey, the rest of the country, this is a good restaurant. Everybody says, hey, I'm going to start going there. Like, we've known this.
Nashville's got some great hot chicken.
Yeah. This isn't something that, myself or Paul Kaharski or anybody, like, it's not something that we didn't know. It's not something that we haven't spoken about, so exactly why it's looked upon as breaking news is just, it is what it is. But, I mean, it is definitely in line with the things that, a lot of us have gathered. And, it comes out, sometimes in the media room, like we have discussions, and this is what is kind of the general consensus from all of us in the building.
All right, there we go. That was TD Teron Davenport. Appreciate him for joining us in the last segment. He joins us every Monday at 1 o'clock. We asked him about the Bedard report as well. And TD said that what was written in Greg Bedard's report in the Boston Sports Journal, saying that it was kind of a push from the league for Amy Adams-Strunk to hire Rand Carthon, that there was some questions about his job performance in the 49ers. TD says that was disrespectful and bullcrap. And you know what? I don't disagree with TD, because when I first read that Greg Bedard report, when it says that there have been some issues with Rand Carthon's job performance even back to his 49ers days, I'm thinking, where did that come from? Because don't you think throughout Amy Adams-Strunk's and throughout the entire Titans front office job search, where there's one of 32 of these jobs, where they're going to be doing a whole lot of vetting for this job process, don't you think that may have come up? Don't you think that when we talked to Jeff Fisher, and it was nothing but glowing recommendations about Rand Carthon, and maybe there would have been at least a little bit of hesitation from somebody somewhere that's worked with Rand Carthon throughout his lengthy career in the NFL, that probably would have come out, at least in private?
Yeah, you would think it would. Now, obviously, when you talk with people, on the record, more than likely you're going to get the good side, and then you may get some whispers over here that were not on the record, that people put out, but we didn't see any of this during the process of hiring a GM. Even when they finalized it with certain guys, we didn't hear any of this about Rand Carthon. It seemed like all of his stops, at least his recent ones, he had success, whether it was with Atlanta, San Francisco, and I forget where he was in between that.
The Rams.
Yeah, the Rams. So you're talking about success at all three organizations, or some sense of some time period of success. So I don't understand. I just can't sort of really grab it and hold on to it like it's something that's fact, because none of this, not even a hint of it, came out in the process, the hiring process. So, again, I said it earlier, take it with a grain of salt. It's coming from, a Boston writer. This sort of Vrabel to Boston, has been, sort of fueled each and every week. It hasn't gone anywhere, especially as New England continues to lose and the Titans continue to be in the position that they're in. They're always going to be sort of this connection or this tie with Vrabel. But it is unfortunate that you go to that. Like, it was basically the league twist Amy's arm and said, hire Rand Carthon because he's a minority.
It's questioning his...
Exactly. It's questioning his ability to do his job.
Yes.
Without even having a full sample size. Yeah, you could point at Dylan Radins. I get it. But I can point to Will Levis. I can point to Tajay Spears. I can point to Wiley, who's starting to play a lot better as a rookie. I can point to, who else can we point to? D-Hop. He brought D-Hop in. The linebacker Al Shire, I can point to him.
Trade for Nick Folk.
Yeah, trade for Nick Folk. I can point to that.
Which I was all over at the beginning. Like, why would you trade?
So there are things you can point to that sort of combats this, narrative of him being incompetent at his job. No GM is going to hit 100%. None.
But you throw that line in there, like, there were big problems.
Like what?
Like, what were the problems?
And I'm hoping this guy, Greg Bedard, who, look, if you look at his credentials, he's a legit writer that goes back for decades here. So
but that's what's tricky for me. He's not some gossip columnist.
Let's
that's
hear
just
what he has to say. He's going
but this
on
is
with
also
Jared
a guy
today.
that put out a false narrative about the Green Bay Packers and them, cutting salaries, and then had to come back and retract. Like, that's not the case.
That he did get from a reputable source.
Exactly. So it's like, then the reputable like, no, that wasn't the case. So it's like, listen, that's why I say you take it with a grain of salt, and you kind of move that way. I haven't seen anything that Rand has done that would make me think he is not the guy for the job. Now, if, he's into the game 3-4 years and he's missed on more free agents than he brought in, or he's missed on more draft picks than he's been a part of drafting, then okay, we can have that conversation. Mm-hmm. But it's been one draft where it seems like he got 3 to 4 good players, one free agency period where they wasn't spending a lot of money, but it seems like they got some, again, 3 or 4 players that are contributing in a good way for this team. They hadn't been home run hits, but they've been guys that have come in and have played good football.
And the whole narrative of, Vrabel's looking to get out so he can go to New England. Number one, I don't understand why New England would have any interest in trading for any coach, let alone Vrabel. They need all the draft picks they can get. They have a mess on their hands. Mm-hmm. And getting back to Carthon, it's still early to say that Levis, he's the guy. Mm-hmm. He's going to be the quarterback. He's going to get a chance for sure. We still don't know how good he's going to be. But if he has drafted the next quarterback in the second round, that's a stroke of brilliance. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, not many. And this can't be determined for the next 2 or 3 years, really, until we see the full development of Levis. But I mean, he's just starting here, and he may have drafted a quarterback in the second round that ends up being your starter for several years. That's
it seems like he has
easy
the tools.
To do. There's way more guys that whiff and don't do anything in the second round.
And to your point, Willie, I'm intrigued to hear what Greg Bedard says. He will be on Jared's show at 4:30, and he's not going to reveal his sources.
No, I don't expect him to, and I don't want him to.
But I would love to hear an example of what he heard from somebody.
Exactly.
There were questions about what Carthon did in San Francisco. San Francisco's got a pretty darn good track record of player development, drafting, talent evaluation. Mm-hmm. Like, they've won a lot of big games. Mm-hmm. And a lot without the quarterback. It's not like they're riding the wave of Joe Montana.
We went to a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yes.
Jimmy Garoppolo stinks.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
he does.
I mean,
so it'll be
O'Connell was starting over him, so yeah, he does stink.
And
they've amassed a really darn good roster.
Yeah.
Yes, they have. And I think it is important, as TD mentioned, to consider the source, because this is not the first that we have heard out of Boston of New England pushing for Mike Vrabel. We heard it in the Ben Volen report on the Boston Globe. Again, a very reputable source, one of the most reputable and reliable sources in the world, saying that Robert Kraft calls Mike Vrabel his home run hire. This is not something new, that Boston is pushing for Mike Vrabel. So we'll get your thoughts on that. Phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. LD is on the line with a thought on Rand Carthon. What's up, LD?
Hey, guys. Just hearing you guys chat about that. I'm kind of on board there with you guys, what you're saying. I'm not willing to say whether Mr. Carthon is good or bad at his job at this point, right? It's way, way, way too early. My only thing is I hate it that since this report has come out, it's anytime that it goes sideways or if we have a down year as a Titan, they're going to say, was he hired based on him being a minority? And that's totally unfair, I think, for him. Whether it is or not, it's unfair that that's out there. But to be honest, guys, if the Titans were winning, would any of this be a subject at this point?
No.
No.
And thank you, LD. I appreciate your call. It's
emphatically
completely
say
unfair.
no. Yeah.
It's completely unfair and disrespectful, and the fact that your credentials will be questioned just because of the color of your skin or where you come from or what gender you are, I think is total and utter and complete bullcrap. But I think it also is a part of the subset of so much newness with Rand Carthon. If Rand Carthon is here for the next 10 to 15 years and the Titans go to the Super Bowl several times, we're not going to question the credentials of Rand Carthon. It's newness. And to LD's point, this is a bad football team. So there's going to be questions of relationships, potential fractures in relationships, so on and so forth.
And
everything comes into question when you're back.
And to be fair, the context of Bedard's, let's call it a narrative, is that he's trying to paint the picture of, well, Vrabel didn't get to hire his guy. Carthon is not, quote, his guy. This was Amy Adams Strunk, the league, etc. And then in all of the jet wash with that, he's trying to paint Rand Carthon as well. He's just it doesn't paint Rand Carthon with the respect that he deserves. But I think what Bedard's thinking is, as he's putting that out, is the perception is that Vrabel handpicked Rand Carthon. Does that make sense? Like and it's all just one of these building blocks to the conspiracy theory of, well, Vrabel's not happy there. He wants to get out of there.
Well, that would lead us to believe that Vrabel was the hand that pushed, this move for Rand Carthon. Is that what you're saying? Like,
look, when they went through that whole process, I really felt like Vrabel was in on it, and he absolutely was impressed with Rand Carthon. I think if he thought Rand Carthon was not ready for this job, etc., then he probably could have had a lot of influence with that. I think do we have any reason to believe that he wasn't fully on board?
I think I think the head coach has
even
to.
If it wasn't, quote, hey, Amy, let me tell you about Rand Carthon. I'm sure. I mean, it's been well told. Like the league has seminars that bring minority candidates to the table, which they should. And Rand Carthon was one of those guys. And the Titans, I think, were at one of these things, and they were impressed. But that's all part of the process. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing that's bad about that.
No, it's not. And, again, it obviously Vrabel was in the room when all this was going down. Now, how much of a say he had, don't know, because ultimately this is the owner that needs to hire her GM. She wants to make sure I'm going to sit both guys down and make sure everybody's vision aligns together. And if they align together, then y'all can get along. As long as all of us are headed in the same direction. There's going to be some friction in there. I don't care. Hell, I have friction with my brothers and sisters. I mean, but I love them to death, But there's going to be friction. I'm sure there has been, friction with Vrabel and Rand Carthon, but they both have the same common goal. And that is to make this franchise as good as it can possibly be to ultimately win a Super Bowl. So, is it probably peachy creamy at this point in time? No, because they're losing. Exactly,
it shouldn't be.
Absolutely.
This team stinks.
But it doesn't.
They got big decisions that they've got to make.
But it doesn't make me think that these two guys just can't work together anymore, and Rand doesn't know what he's doing, and Vrabel wants out because Rand's here, and it's just. This is what happens when you lose.
Yes.
All of this is sort of the backdrop of losing.
And I think the important thing, too, is with all of these reports coming out, Diana Rossini, Greg Bedard, and I'm sure several reports to come out over the next few weeks. Weird things happen in the NFL. People lie. and expect crazy things to happen. Nobody is obligated to tell the truth, whether it's Mike Vrabel or Amy Adams Strunk or Rand Carth or whoever it is. Weird things happen in the NFL. Let's get your thoughts on it coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. This Friday, Robbie and Rexford will be broadcasting live for the grand opening of a new Dunkin' location in Franklin at 1441 New Highway 96 West. 1025 The Game will be on site from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Stop by and have your chance to win lots of great prizes. Moving can be so stressful, and we all know that it cannot be very fun. But it can be fun, and it doesn't have to be stressful. Caroline Fenton here for my friends over at Black Tie Moving. When you choose Black Tie Moving, you are going to get a highly awarded Inc. 500 company. Plus, their trained and dedicated team is there to ensure that they take the stress out of the moving process. I moved with Black Tie Moving over the summer, and truly it was the easiest moving process that I have ever gone through. They took all the stress out of the entire moving process. They highlighted exactly what I could expect, and what I got was great customer service. So visit blacktiemoving.com or call 615-437-8401. That is 615-437-8401 and blacktiemoving.com. Be sure to mention the promo code GAME, G-A-M-E, to score 10% off of your next move. Then sit back and enjoy the best move of your life with Black Tie Moving. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Hey, Preds fans, don't miss this Wednesday night Smashville live show at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs at 6 p.m. See your Predator star players up close and personal. Get autographs and pictures. This week's special guests are Tyson Berry and Ryan O'Reilly. Smashville Live is brought to you by the Black Abbey Brewing Company. Let's get to some of your phones, unless we have a thought.
Let's go.
Let's get to the phones. Dustin in Hopkinsville texts in, says, that wasn't a strike of brilliance. Dude passed Levis for a guard, then decided he'd take a shot on him in the second round. That's luck in my book. And apparently they wanted Stroud and it got leaked. Just because someone gets lucky in their picking order doesn't mean it will keep going that way.
So anybody you draft is just luck if it works out.
I would say that I think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are a great GM and coach combo. They got very lucky with Brock Purdy.
Oh, of course they did.
I mean, John Lynch might be fired had Brock Purdy not worked out with the whole Trey Lance situation.
Right. I mean,
Because
but
they have
you
to
could
give
say
up
that
so
about
much.
anybody
Yeah, they
who
give up so much
drafts
to get up.
somebody and hits on a late round pick. It's a combination of luck, but it's also you got to give them credit.
Okay.
I mean, that's how you're scored, right?
No, you're
If
right.
you hit on it, you get credit for it.
Yeah, you hit, you get credit. You miss, you don't. Okay. This is what I want to say in regards to that, because this is sort of like their run. A lot of people's run back to, oh, he drafted a guard, an 11th overall pick, and he shouldn't have drafted a guard. Okay, what if they would have put him at tackle and still got Will Levis? Then what do people say? You got what you thought you needed in the first round, which was an offensive lineman. You chose to put him at tackle. Well, in this case, you chose to put him at guard. And then, just like anything else, you're reading the board and you're saying, okay, we got an opportunity to get him. Should we? Because there was sort of, speculation that they wanted to move up in the first round to get him, to get Will Levis. But they couldn't because they didn't want to give up. They probably would have had to give up a lot more. So they wait until the second round. Then they move up to get the quarterback that they want because he's still on the board. Just like Aaron Rodgers. He didn't get drafted until late in the first round. And Green Bay, I think, moved up to get him, if I can remember. They moved up to get him. I could be wrong on that one. But no matter where you find...
I don't know if Green Bay did. I know Kansas City
moved up to get Mahomes, yeah. But no matter where you get the guy, you get him. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, then okay. You just don't want to have too many that don't work out.
And also, I think there's way too much of, all you did was draft a guard in the first... If the guy turns out to be a really good guard for 2 contracts, that's a good first-round pick.
Exactly.
I don't care if it's a guard or a center. There is big value in that. And look, Skoronski had the emergency appendectomy that could have derailed his season. He's playing next to a pitiful batch of left tackles and an undersized center on the other side, and he is doing pretty well. I'd say that's a victory. And you can sit there, you got to get a tackle or you got to get a... No, you want good players.
Glenn in Greenbrier texts in, says, since when does the coach get to pick the GM? If that's the case, then Miss Amy has lost control of her franchise. I don't think it's Vrabel necessarily picking the GM, but when Amy fired John Robinson and gave Mike Vrabel more responsibility, she pledged her allegiance to Mike Vrabel, that she wants him to have more control of this franchise.
I don't know if she pledged her allegiance to Vrabel. I think she made a decision, however we feel about the decision, she made a decision that was best for her football team. And what that caused is, okay, now we have to have people in place that can help run this team until we find another GM. So these are your guys. This is your team. Mike, you get more say right now. You and the GM at the time, y'all got to collaborate. All of y'all are going to talk because the GM right now is just the interim GM. He's not the guy that's going to be in there for the long duration. So you go out and you hire another GM. And now it's a working relationship. And we can't judge it based upon one off season. Let this thing go and let them build on what they already have, which isn't much. But let them continue to build on that. And then if it doesn't get right after that, then you have every right, just like you did with John Robinson. You have every right to pivot in another direction.
That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Again, Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal will join Jared Stillman at 4:30, and Stillman & Company is up next.
Be love and love on your people. Happy Monday. Peace.